Welcome to the GarageGrit podcast. I'm your host, Brad Hurlock of AA Shop Marketing. Our hope is to unite shop owners to tackle common stress points and challenges that they're experiencing within the auto repair shop space. Our mission is to guide you towards the best solutions for your shop. So tune in, join the conversation, and let's move your business forward. Welcome to the GarageGrit podcast, where shop owners come together for a casual conversation about various pressing shop management topics with the goal of helping as many shop owners refine their own processes, prepping them for stability and growth. Now, I'm Brad Hurlock, your host and co-owner of AA Shop Marketing. Today's topic, shop culture. And we've got three guests with us: Moira from from Georgia, Kendall from A1 in Nebraska, and Matt from Cars R Us in Illinois. And before we start to just have that general casual conversation with each other, we're going to do a round robin to do some introductions. So, Moira, why don't you start us off? Tell us about your shop and your background.
Sure. Thanks, Brad. My name is Moira. I own Karma Auto Care. I am in Savannah, Georgia. It's very warm today. It's in the 70s. So all of you can be jealous that are up there in Nebraska and Illinois.
Thank you.
I have been a shop owner for the last 16 years. I have 5 bays, 4 technicians. I got a little cold thing going too. Sorry, my voice is a little rough. I have 2 service advisors. We do about a little less than $1.5 million this year. I did have a time during this year where I only had 1 technician. So that really sucked. But now in the last couple of months, it's just seemed to have all come together. And it's a really great feeling. I feel I've been through, everything you can imagine in the last 16 years. And my goal now is to do 2 million in this spot. I'm right near the Savannah airport. So it's a great location, Gulfstream Aerospace, fancy corporations across the street. We pick up a lot of people who are traveling, who need their car work done while they're out of town. And I'm going to go ahead and announce it. I'm hoping next year to open my second shop.
Nice. Congrats.
Put it out there. Congratulations.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yep. Manifest it.
That's right. I believe in it.
Okay. All right. Matt, how about you go next?
Sure. Matt Aukus. My shop is Cars R Us. We are in McChesney Park, Illinois, which I'm sure nobody's heard of. That is just north of Rockford, or if you don't know Rockford, equidistant between Chicago and Madison, pretty much. So that gives you a visual. We are 9 bays, got 4 techs, 2 service advisors. Got a kind of weird background, probably compared to most people in automotive. I taught high school band for 6 years and decided to leave that field, got into real estate and owning a company, and then partnered with my brother. And when that partnership ended, I maintained the shop. So we're almost 16 years in business as well. And I think our growth, I don't want a second shop. I used to want a second shop. I do a lot of real estate too. So I like having my hands in multiple ventures. It keeps me occupied. I am on the business 100%, pretty much 3-4 days a week there. And then I do real estate a day or 2 a week as well. And just really worked on shop culture. I think this is a great podcast that a lot of people really need in today's market. So great topic. Appreciate you having me on, Brad.
Good. Glad that you're here with us. Kendall.
Yeah. So Kendall Warnock, Lincoln, Nebraska. I started A1 Automotive about 13 years ago. We do have 5 bay small shop in downtown Lincoln, about a football throw away from Memorial Stadium here in Lincoln. And we have 5 techs, 2 service advisors. We are closing in on about 3 million this year. And we have our second location being built now. The foundation is poured in South Lincoln. It'll be a 12 bay shop down there. Yeah. Grateful for everything and thankful to be able to join you all today.
Good. The first thing that I was thinking of was, speaking of shop culture, we're going to get back to this later, but I'm just going to give you a warning. More, I would imagine some level, the shop culture changed when you went from all the way down to 1 tech and then back up. Because don't the people make part of the shop culture, or is it completely management driven?
I think it really is management driven, Brad, because the person at the top sets the tone for everything that goes on in any business, not just in auto repair. So the culture expanded, but it didn't change. I still treated the 1 tech the same way I treat the 4 that I have now.
Okay.
In fact, in a way, it multiplies, expands, it gets better because I've gotten better at attracting the right people to fit in my environment. And that is a learning process a lot of us suffer through, unfortunately. But yeah, so I've gotten better. I don't hire a tech now because of his technical skill. He also has to get along well with others, not be a prima donna, not lose his temper. So I'm looking for those social aspects and not just the technical. And it does take longer. It definitely takes longer, but it's such a better fit for my environment because I don't need the drama queens. I don't need people throwing tools at each other.
I can't even imagine the shop culture where they're throwing tools at each other.
Oh,
I mean,
Sounds fun.
it sounds like a good reality TV show, but not a really good shop culture. Yeah. My goodness. Matt, your space is so much larger than Moira's and Kendall's, and you have the same number of techs roughly. I found that interesting. I would also think that the proximity that you are to your coworkers, where you don't have to throw the wrench at them, you just swing it, versus you would have to throw it 2 bays to get to them. Does the space actually help define the dynamics at the shop?
I think it can, if like we have extra bays just based on some of the fleet work that we do, because some vehicles only go in certain bays based on size of the door. Our doors in front are 10, our doors in back are 12. So we have to use certain bays in the back to get the larger step vans that we work on into the bays. So that's why we limit that. Plus, I think having 2 bays per tech is nice if you have it. We got knocked down 2 years going in by the state when they widened the road. So then we rebuilt, and we had a little strip center with a restaurant and a salon. So we decided, do we rebuild that and keep a smaller shop that we were outgrowing, or do we build a bigger shop? So we built a bigger shop. We're probably a little bigger than what we need still, but I guess I'd rather have the extra space versus being tight. Cause I'm sure you guys know when you got 5 bays, you're putting wheels back on, you're putting stuff back together, pulling it out, waiting on stuff, then bringing it back in. That hurts efficiency. So.
Interesting. Okay. I'm still back to the idea that the government came in and said, we're changing the road, and there was the building completely torn down. You had to rebuild it completely, or what?
Yeah. So for those,
and how long were you down for?
So real estate background, if you got any, we did a land contract with the person selling it. So instead of using the bank as financing, he financed it because we were new into the industry. We weren't really able to get financing. So we did a land contract. So find out a year and a half in that the property's in, literally a couple feet in the right of way for the road getting widened, then investigate and further dig, find out that he actually knew that was happening and didn't like their offer because they don't buy goodwill and tools. So he decided, let me sell this to somebody versus take their offer. So he sold it. So we had to sue him. We were in the building trying to find another place to go. That was not happening. Fast forward a year after all of this started. And then we found a place from like across the street and a block over from where we were. So it worked out. But then we went to court one day, and our attorney's like, they'll tell you as soon as the place is ready, get out. We had already broke ground. And then we go to court, and the judge says, you can show up tomorrow and argue. And if you lose all your equipment and everything, or you can move out this weekend. If you come on the property during the week, you're in contempt. So we were criminals pretty much in the judge's mind, because we stayed in the building when they told us to leave, because what were we going to do? We're out of business if we left. So my friend was up, that's a realtor from a couple hours away. We were going to do his timing belt. And I'm like, hey, we're not doing your timing belt. Go find me a place. And luckily he found a place. We literally lifted hoists with exhaust pipes in them by hand over a weekend and moved and opened at a temporary place like 5 miles away. And then 4 months later, we did that again. So
see, and I feel like the marketing side of that is a whole nother ball of wax, but I'm feeling, were the techs who were at your shop then, are they still with you now? And because I imagine when you go through a challenge with somebody, neck, shoulder and shoulder through a period like that, you become closer, you become more tight knit, right? It's a bond in some ways, right? So tell me a little bit about how that has impacted shop culture, that whole process. You said it was only a year or so ago?
This is a year and a half into buying the business.
Oh,
so this
15,
was like 13,
years.
14 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't have any techs who are still with you from then?
No, but it definitely impacted things. It just, even when you think about culture, you were talking about space. Mm-hmm. We moved in a weekend. So of course, ideally, like Kendall, you're building the shop, you're laying everything out. It's like, where's everything going to go? We just threw everything in there because we didn't have that. We were almost we were literally this close out of business. It was one of the most stressful points of my life, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, as they say.
Yeah.
So it definitely impacted culture because, I think we were so stressed at that point that the culture was not that healthy probably. And then as we came out of that, we started to regain some momentum. I think that culture started to grow again. Culture now is not what it was back then. We're talking 15 years ago culture. You could put an ad out there and you were selecting the team member that you wanted based on 20, 30, 40 applications. Now you're putting ads out there and it takes, if you're hiring in need, you're in trouble.
That's interesting. And Moira, you're nodding your head. If you're hiring in need, you're in trouble. You just went through that. You went down to one tech and you needed 3 real quick.
Yeah, so I do believe that you have to always be looking and always advertising it because it is a long process to find the right fit. I do get a lot of applications, but finding the people that fit and have the skill level, that's a whole different thing. So out of the 100 or 200 I've gotten this year, there have been maybe 10 that we actually interviewed and then selected from there. So it is absolutely a numbers game now, and you have to keep constantly always looking. I use Indeed, I use Facebook. I even have put things on Craigslist. Yes, Craigslist does still exist, and there are people who still read it. Shockingly enough,
A little
I
bit.
found a tech off of Craigslist of all places. So I think you have to constantly keep that going. It has to be one of your daily tasks is looking for a technician. And then also, I think it's really important, those that you do interview, or even if it's just a phone interview, asking them for technicians that they know. So it's who would you use as a referral if we proceed? And then I have no qualms about approaching that person saying, "Oh, are you happy where you are? I called you for a reference, but how are you doing?"
Interesting.
So you have to use, just like you use guerrilla marketing these days, you have to do guerrilla recruiting.
But you lead with trying to find out whether or not they're a fit socially and mentally and those types of things. Kendall, you have a
Yes.
similar setup, don't you? You're very aggressive with being involved with your employees and understanding where they're at and whatnot.
A couple things that come to mind as this conversation evolves is, for me, it's compensation, career path, and then flexibility for my family, the people that I work for here. And from that perspective, over the years, I don't have a problem finding techs because people want to come work for and with us. And hence the reason why one of the reasons why I'm building a second location is 12 days. I've got people and technicians waiting to come and join our family because we've again, I say this with a ton of humility. We've been in the industry. All of us, I think, have been in the industry long enough to know you make some mistakes and you correct those mistakes and you move forward. Culture is not a challenge. It never has been a challenge, respectfully, for me, because I feel like I'm always putting their interest before my own and even the shop. So I built that over the last decade. And that's allowed us to recruit really good people, 20-year techs out of dealerships that just say, "Hey, I want to be a part of a culture that genuinely cares about me, not when things are good enough to care about them, but all the time, no matter what." Meaning, if they are on a job and their son has an early basketball game at 2:00, that job is waiting until tomorrow. They're leaving. They're not finishing that job. The customer is going to wait. And I say that with a ton of respect. And the reason that we could pull that off is because we got 10 loaners. So I put customers and loaners to be able to be flexible with my family and the people here that I work for. So I've never had that problem. I want to be transparent in this conversation. But the reason why I have is because of the things that I just spoke about. And the half day, we work half days on Fridays. They're out here at 11:30 on Friday, and I don't deviate from that. I don't deviate from that. All the people here in Lincoln that we service, there's 300,000 people here in the city. There's a ton of great shops, but they know Friday afternoon that Kendall and Kendall's family here are with their families, and and I'm not deviating from that.
So here's what I just heard. I heard that building shop culture is a long game, and that after you have enough time building it, you've done enough marketing to get the word out, you don't need to be recruiting as heavy as most shops because the word is out about how you treat what the culture is at your shop. And that's a long game. There had to have been some marketing that happened early on 10 years ago or so just to get the word out. That's how you were or whatnot. Do you recall how that was introduced? Like
Well,
you never actually advertised the shop culture?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. But you also mentioned about the loaner cars, and I'm just going to quickly put a quick moment here to talk about next month's scheduled episode, which is about loaner cars versus shuttles versus Uber rides or those types of things. And it's interesting because I hear some of these different things and what goes through my mind, and as well as what went through my mind with Matt when you were talking earlier about before the show, when you were talking about bringing the customers in to the bays. So before I got into digital marketing, so 25 years ago now, because it wasn't even called digital marketing when I got into it. Before that, I was in insurance. And so my mind goes right to the insurance nightmares of customers in bays or loaner cars. But even still, I'm plagued with that experience. But back to shop culture, I find it interesting that the word is out, is what you're saying, Kendall. Everyone knows, and that's why you've got that line of people. Is it mostly referrals from other mechanics? Like the mechanics that work there, they know mechanics, and then they actually spread the word. Is that how it got out?
That's part of it, but we're super, super active in the community too. So we're, and it's not for the show. It's not for that, but we're so active with the city mission. We're active with the way we give multiple vehicles away to people in need. We support Catholic social services, all of those things. I'm in front of as many people as I can, talking about how important it is for us as our family here to be impactful and give back in the community, from supporting elementary schools that are in lower incomes that parents don't have enough funding to pay for their school lunches. So all of that stuff has equated over the years. But it takes so much time to get there. And you can tear that down pretty quickly. So I'm very cautious about that, and I guard it, and I nurture it, and I grow it. But again, we're in a good spot. We have so many guys. Now, most of them are guys that want to come join our family. I can't fit any more in this building. And that's in the part of the vision and the manifesting that Moira and I just touched on briefly, is that second location. I will, again, respectfully, I've got people lined up, and I have contracts. I presented contracts with these people ahead of time and come to an agreement. They're going to join our family. So a lot to unpack there, a lot that goes into that.
And based on the short conversation we've already had, I can tell that the shop culture that you have at each of your shops wasn't by accident. It was planned. It was intentional, right? It wasn't just, these are the people and then it morphed into something, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but was there actually a written plan at one point? Or how did you actually evolve to the point where I say, I'm going to define how it is at our shop? Who wants to go? Matt, you want to jump in?
Yeah. Early on, it was not defined. It was, okay. I think when you first start a shop, there's so many things coming at you that you don't know what you're doing. There's no training manual for owning your own business, which is part of the fun too, because you can do what you want. Over the last several years, I've really started to hone in on what that culture looks like. And it starts with, I think, Moira, you said, it starts with the leadership, right? So I listen to a lot of books. I use Audible and I drive a fair amount. So I listen to a lot. The most recent one that we've really started to dive into as a team is called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Patrick Lencioni. And we actually all listen to it. We have a monthly meeting in our team. So we took a little assessment that talked about the 5 dysfunctions and which ones are we the strongest at, where do we have the most room for growth. And healthy conflict was where we had the most room for growth. So we dove into that. What is our definition of having healthy conflict? What are things that we should be including in that conflict? What are things that are going to deter people from wanting to have it? If we're yelling and screaming, they're going to stop having it. Most people shut down then. It's unhealthy. So we defined all of that in our culture. We've got a thing posted on our office window that has do's and don'ts of healthy conflict. And so we've been working on that. And like the staff, I had one-on-ones yesterday, and one of my techs came in and he's, so-and-so's doing this. And so we talked about it. And I said, do you want me to talk to him, or are you looking for advice on how to talk to him? He said, both. I said, if I do it, what is that teaching you? And so then we nurture, what does that conversation look like? And how do you have that without feeling like you're attacking them? So right now, while we're getting this off the ground, every conversation, and I tell everyone, start it with, hey, remember, we're having healthy conflict here. How do you have that without taking things personally? So that's an example of being strategic with what we're doing. And our shop meetings, I don't like having meetings, right? I want to have a meeting that has a point, that we get something accomplished. Before, our team meetings we get a little bit of but it didn't feel good. So I started researching a couple of years ago, what needs to be in a team meeting. And as you guys were introducing before we ever started, I was working on my agenda for the team meeting that we have in December. And we're still working on healthy conflict, but we're also doing more events. We're doing stuff like that. And we have at the meeting, we used to do things that were issues for people. Where do you want to grow? Now it's just little things like, what did you do in the past? Where's your favorite vacation? What's your favorite movie? Just little tidbits like that, turn everybody into human. And then we start looking at the things that they do differently than we do, a little different lens. So we don't take it personally. We're able to be more objective. So all that kind of plays in together to build that culture to where you can actually have the real conversation. Because I think a lot of times we avoid that real conversation because we're afraid to hurt people's feelings because we personalize.
That's fair. I'm still back to the idea that you've hired me to fix cars and now you're making me listen to Audible.
Yeah.
Everyone on your staff is listening to that same book. And after that book's done, how often are they required to, where's the whip? How often are they required to listen to a different text and then you bring it into discussions? Quarterly? Is it monthly?
No, that's the first one we've done like that. It was actually my service manager's idea because I took the 5 dysfunctions of a team's class. We're an automotive training institute. So I took that class and I said, hey, I think this would be a great book for you to listen to. So he listened to it and he said, I think our whole team should listen to it. I think we'd really benefit from this. And so then we did that and then we started, and I didn't get kickback on that. Like everybody, we bought a couple people hard copies and then other people wanted to listen to it. So we got them that. And I didn't have, hey, I don't want to do that. I'm a tech. I don't need that. So I think, but that's built up over years. It's not like we just started working on culture and then, hey, this is a requirement. You're going to do it. And it just flowed organic.
Got it. I would imagine that would be interesting. And now that it potentially could be a recurring thing, you're going to be mentioning it to the people that you're going to be interviewing once a quarter or ever how often you're going to be required to read a text about how to play nicely in the sandbox.
Yeah. Yeah. And personal development, right?
Right.
If they're developing, I think a lot of our staff leave because they're not growing. Like people make it about money. The only reason they're looking for more money is because we didn't develop them throughout their time with us. If they feel like they're growing as whatever their abilities in their field are, and personally, and I do a lot of real estate. So we have conversations in one-on-ones, people that are trying to buy a house. I'm helping them. One of my guys just lowered, he had, when you buy a house and you get the insurance through the bank, like that forced insurance, that's ridiculously expensive. It's terrible coverage. We were able to get him out of that. I didn't know he was in that. And so I was actually looking to help him check his taxes with my tax attorney. And she's like, he needs to get different insurance. And I'm like, oh, so boom, here we go. So I think when you do things like
really
that have nothing to do with you benefiting from them, builds the trust, it builds the culture. When you want them to do something, they're more apt to do it because they think they know you have their best interest.
Moira, do you do anything like that? What are you doing to help develop the team
points that he
in
made.
and out of the shop?
I think, yes, we have to develop as leaders and we have to constantly be evolving and growing ourselves in order to be effective leaders. And I've done a lot of the reading too. I've been a Tony Robbins follower. I've been a Mel Robbins follower. And my recent one is Mike Michalowicz, the Rate Profit First. You guys heard of him? So he has his own group called the Prosper Group that I'm a member of.
I use that.
And he says a lot of the same things, but he does have a little more of a marketing spin, but he covers every area of business. And most of it is about being different, doing it differently. So that's what I'm kind of different. I'm a single chick in auto repair, so I'm already different. So I try to continue that difference in how I treat the people. I also probably take more of a mother role to a lot of my guys, and they can feel that I'm really invested in their lives being better. So we do also have one-to-ones once a week. And during that meeting, just like Matt was saying, I'm not talking about, I mean, we might have to talk about numbers, but we talk about numbers every day, little meeting. It's more of a time for me to help them focus on their goals. And that's what I ask them, do you want to buy a house? Some guys want to buy a truck, they're starting their family. And unfortunately, a lot of people, not just in this industry, but in the country as a whole, have not been provided information on how to do that successfully. Like, how do you buy a house? If your parents didn't tell you, how do you buy a house? You're Googling it, trying to figure it out, and you might miss some of the key points. But if you're talking to someone who has bought numerous properties and is going to set you up with one of my mortgage buddies, one of my real estate buddies, who's going to walk you through the process, now they know I really care about them. And that does, like Matt said, it makes all the difference in the world. So yes, you do have to come well. Yes, you have to have great benefits. But I think we have to go a little bit farther in investing in them as a person with our time, not just the money. And Mike McLeod talks about this, his staff. He should probably kill me for saying this, but it's okay. I think he pays his staff, he said the other day, $10 an hour. And he puts in his ads, if you are looking for big money, this is not the place to come. We're not going to do big money. But, you're going to get this incredible experience and you're going to get these. So in that industry, it's not about the money. I feel in auto repair, we have to provide all of it. We have to provide the money. We have to provide a better way of life and understand our people and make a connection. And that's what I think is hard for most business owners, or some at least, is to make that personal connection with people. At least I know I was a little standoffish and I was all very, numbers and get cars out, blah, 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 blah. And over the years, I've evolved myself into, I have to, like Kendall said, I have to look at these people as a family, although I hate the term because it's used so much. But he's right in that we have to see these people as central in our lives and as emotional beings. They're not machines.
And that's remarkably
Can I
different. Go
chime
ahead,
in
Matt.
on that? So
Please.
for sure, I think one thing that you could do too for your staff, and you're probably already doing it,
Yes.
just not mentioned it, but like the lunch and learns, right? Like you got we as business owners have
Right.
contacts that other people don't have. Our staff don't have time to go out to networking events and meet new people. So like bringing in a lender. Several people on your staff are potentially looking to buy houses. Bring in a lender to talk about what does that process look like, right? And they're happy to do that kind of stuff for your staff too at no charge. The banks will do that. So there's a lot of things. If you're setting up your SIBL or your 401k,
Right.
you could do that with the retirement person. And one of the things on the culture stuff, Brad, that I really think is huge. I hear a lot of owners that are, I think it's an age thing, like towards the baby boomer generation, that they don't want to get into the touchy-feely type of stuff with their staff. And they struggle and they say, I can't find people. And they keep doing the same thing, but they're not making any changes. And I think, like what you were saying, more like the staff are different today. What they're looking for, they want a culture. They want a family. They want a place that they can go to work for and feel like they're going to have a great day because of the people they work with,
Right.
not just because they love what they do there. And I think that it's our job as owners to develop ourselves, follow the trends, and maybe that's not our strength, but
Right.
we have to learn how to create that atmosphere. We're not going to have staff. And Kendall, you were saying the same thing. None of the three of us are having staffing issues. I know you went through it more for a little bit, but you were able to get them back right away. Why? Because you create a good culture, right? And that culture is, you're not going to get staff involved if you
Absolutely.
don't have that great culture. So Kendall, what are you doing individually that you find, like with team meetings, one-on-ones, what does that look like for you?
I set every standard in that building, and both personally and professionally, meaning how initially how I care for others, how I take care of myself, what I read, what I intake, what I allow, what I don't allow, all of that stuff. And then at my team, respectfully, they follow that because I'm such a proponent of that. I don't deviate from it. I get up at the same time every day. I go to bed. My kids are the focus. My family's the most important thing in my life. And if they work for me, it's their most important thing in their life either, or they won't work for me. And then we have gratitude lunches every Friday. So I bring in lunch and we don't talk about anything. We don't talk about a vehicle. We talk about what we're grateful for. And for an hour, whether it's pizza, whether we go out and grab something, we talk about what they're grateful for, what they're looking forward to on the weekends, what their family and what their kids are doing, what they're excited about. We're not talking about a vehicle. And that we shut down 11:30 on Fridays, and sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 2. But they walk out of there, their hearts are full of gratitude because that's what they just talked about. So gratitude lunches on Fridays. Every other Thursday, we do a vision board. So they talk about what's on their vision, what's on their board, what's on their vision. Is it a second home? Is it a first home? Is it a new vehicle? Is it creating a family? Is it professional development? I've read over 20 books this year.
You said every other Thursday. Is it a group event or is it a one-on-one event that you're having at these vision boards?
Group.
It's a group event. So everybody knows that Tommy is trying to save up for a house.
Yep.
Very transparent. Interesting.
Yeah. That's just how we operate. Again, it works for us. I'm not saying it works for everybody, but it really works for us.
How many years have you been doing the vision boards?
3.
Okay.
3 years. And it's pretty consistent. It's transparent. That's just how we operate, being very even with the numbers in the business. I throw the P&L up every month at the end of the month when we have meetings too. We have quarterly meeting, catering a bunch of food. We have it at a bar. I don't drink. A lot of the guys enjoy having a beverage. So they have a conference room in there. The walls are able to be written on. So we're super aggressive with that. That's where we have our lunches on Thursday. So their vision board is something that they can grab a marker right on the wall, and then they take a picture of it and then they recreated that home.
Well, and I find it really interesting that the coworkers are now in a way accountable or encouragers for that particular goal, right? If I'm trying to save up for a house and all of my coworkers now know that I've put that out there, they're going to be reminding me and supporting me in that. It's not just going to be forgotten about. And on January 17th, I think that's the day. January 17th is the day that your New Year's resolutions tends to go by the wayside. I think that's the average. So if you get to the 18th, you're probably in like the top 10%. That's good. So, but if you put that out there, then there's more accountability attached to it. That's interesting.
Well, can I ask you?
Do you guys do anything similar to that where everyone shares?
Did you present this to your technicians about a vision board
that
they were able to embrace it?
We talked about it for probably 3 months prior to that. I knew that in their personal life, they needed a little bit more structure and maybe something to look forward to and something to be accountable for. It manifested at a gratitude lunch, to be honest with you, Moira. And then we just I didn't want to do it unless everybody was on board. And I wasn't going to eliminate a family member because they didn't want to do a vision board. I wanted to make sure they were all comfortable. And we are very transparent. We're very supportive. We're a small team. And I wanted to make sure that trust factor was at a level 10 with everybody. And after they bought into it, a couple of weeks, they said, okay, let's give it a shot.
So are you doing like a traditional vision board where you're cutting things out of a magazine or coming up with pictures and putting them on a board?
So they're doing the vision board with a marker on a wall that they can write on. And then they transfer that at home to a board.
Okay.
An outboard.
Curious.
Yeah, we did that for a little while. I didn't end up sticking with it. I had everybody do it on an app. There's tons of goal board apps, and then we would talk about it. But it was more one-on-one. I actually made a note. I think that's a great idea to get the team involved because both of you said, put it out there, what you're doing, and that tends to manifest better. So why are we doing that in a closed doors is appropriate for certain things. But I think as you build that culture, we have enough trust factor that I think people would be fine with sharing what their goals are. So I think that's a much better approach than doing it in a one-on-one where you're putting it. But you don't have that team involvement, like you said, Brad. Almost the team is supporting that goal now instead of just management or ownership.
Yeah, that's interesting. More, are you going to try to implement something
well,
like this?
we
What are
already
you
gave
thinking?
some
You're going to start with the gratitude
lunches.
lunches?
I probably need to be more specific. And I like the format that Kendall's following, so I probably copy that. You know, I never come up with great ideas. I just steal them from everybody else.
More than welcome to it. That's why we're here. And then hopefully, everybody else is listening to this or is going to be listening to this.
Yeah, I think if we all help each other, shouldn't be a competition on our parents. Should be that we help each other because it just makes the industry stronger. But yeah, I like the idea of the vision board, but I'm from the traditional way of, like I said, doing the magazine thing. And I just can't picture my technicians with a pair of scissors and some magazines cutting out pictures. I'm glad to open up my brain to, hey, there's another way we could do this. We could make it look.
Sure.
I've got a question. Where do you get magazines?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. In the lobby anymore.
Yeah.
That's why I did the app. The app is nice because you could just go online and, okay, I want to have a new house. You could go online, search images of house.
No, you're right.
Download the one you like and put it in the app.
I am a baby boomer. I'm at the bottom of the baby boomers.
Now I was thinking about you, Matt, you referenced the generation gap, right? From boomers to X to millennials to my son walks around. I didn't do this when I was 9. He walks around saying, I'm Gen Alpha, right? Good job. So but I find it interesting. I wonder if there was a particular generation that kind of forced our hand into this shop culture or business culture shift. Because if you go back 30 years ago, it wasn't like that at all. It was a scenario where you just showed up with Moira, what you were saying about it was all being about numbers. You just show up and you turn your wrench and then you go home at the end of the day. Whereas now we're trying to have this family-like atmosphere, and it's something that we're all pushing towards. And some started sooner than others. That's fine. But I wonder which generation pushed for it, because I do feel like if you have a boomer as a lead tech, you might be less likely to be successful. I'm not trying to tell you to fire boomers, but I'm saying you might have more hurdles to cover than if you had a millennial.
The industrial age, we had actions that were very paternalistic. And in Savannah, we had a sugar refinery that you lived on the grounds, and they had their own little store, and you never left area where the business was. Yeah, and then it went too much the other way, where we became so separated, and now it seems to have come back. I'm going to guess with the millennials that because of the way they were parented differently.
What do you think, Matt? You had a thought of the share?
I want to jump back to what you said about stealing before I go into that. So I'm a jazz musician, and life in jazz is steal. That's why we call it transcribing. You transcribe people's solos. And then what that turns into is eventually you've done enough of that you can make your own solo. So that's what we do in business. We steal other people's ideas. They don't stay that way because we end up stealing it. And then it's, but what if we do this? And then we put our spin on it. So I think stealing ideas is critical. That's the only way that new ideas happen a lot of times, is that we steal it and we make it our own. So I had to chime in on that. But the millennials, absolutely 100%, because we noticed this change. And if you haven't read a book called The Dream Manager, that's a really good book. I'll tell you who it's by. Dream Manager is, I'll check it out while I'm not talking, but really good book. And that it was, when I listened to that, I think it was like 21, maybe 22 early. And as I was listening to it, I got to the point where I'm like, I got to look up when this was written. This had to be a year or two ago. And it was written in like 2013. And it talks about this culture shift and how it's going to go from money driven, and like, then you're going to get to the point where you're short on staff, and we're going to face all these staffing issues. And we were in the middle of doing it. And I'm like, that's why I thought it had to be written more recently. And I think COVID just really sped that up. I think we were going that direction anyway, but COVID hit, and to get people back to work, you had to change, right? If money changed, and then the cultures had to change, or you weren't going to get and keep those staff. And I think that was really millennial driven. They changed the workforce because their mindset is, I want to be happy at work. They're okay. Like even Gen X and stuff, like we're like baby boomers and all that, Gen Y, you'll stay at a job and I'm not really happy, but I'm going to stick it out. Like millennials are not like, if they're unhappy, out, gone, and they'll shift and that's why if you're looking at resumes, job hoppers, you really got to evaluate that. I don't want a job hopper, but are they unhappy at these places they're working are actually not good places? Or are they just a long-term job hopper that they're not going to stay at your place either? You got to dive into that. It can't be a sole eliminator. They had 4 jobs in the last year. They all do. You can't eliminate everybody because of that. So you have to do that deeper dive on where they were working and hear them out on why they left. And I think if you have a good culture, you're some of those ones that maybe are looking for a long-term place you're able to keep.
I'm realizing the number of books that you're listening and reading, Matt and Kendall. You already mentioned 2024. So we've got this private Facebook group that we're still trying to build up on. But maybe it's appropriate for you guys to just post occasionally what books you're reading. I'd be curious to hear it. A few months back, one of the guests actually mentioned the One Thing book. And so now I'm listening, I've read the book and now I'm listening to their podcast on a regular basis. And so it's great. I think it's beneficial for all of us to share what's helping us on a day-to-day basis. So I got Matt and Kendall, and I might ask you to post what books you're into more. Are you a listener or a reader?
Oh, that's a good one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, that's the one that we're on. That's the one that I'm on now. But again, the way that we can help our families that we work for and be a separator in this industry, from my perspective, is we have to be never-ending learners. And I don't watch I don't watch TV. I have no interest in it. And that's just who I am. That's just how I operate. But I do read, and that's helped me tremendously over the years.
And you're actually reading, not listening. You're actually not doing Audible. You got the paper book.
Again, I think Matt said that he's an Audible. I just can't absorb it like that. And we're all different. But
can you hold that book up again real quick? Because I want to make sure that the author, in case my wife watched this, she knows that I didn't write it because she's comfortable with me. I'm comfortable with her. Sometimes she would say that I would have been the one to write that because I've got that courage.
Yeah.
But I can't quite see the author. Who is it?
Oh, the author it's Ichiro Kashimi and Futema Guga. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right. Hold on, let me get it.
There we go.
There it is.
Fun. Okay. All right. Now, Matt, are you actually doing the paper book or are you doing the Audible only?
So I had this dilemma for years where, okay, I'm going to read, and I read a page or two and I'm frustrated and I don't like it. And finally I just gave in and listened to Audible, and I listened to way more books than I ever would have read. And Kendall, I'm the exact opposite. I don't absorb it when I read it. My mind is distracted. And then I'm thinking about other things, and I read 2 pages and I'm like, I have no idea what I just read. So that was a waste of time. And then I move on and I'm frustrated. And when I listen to Audible, I actually listen to it at 1.25 speed because a lot of the authors read too slow. So otherwise I find myself zoning off onto something that I'm like, crap, I just wasn't paying attention. So I like stuff to move quickly, and I use my car time. I live about 40 minutes from the shop, so I utilize that car time. I don't do it all the time. I think you got to be strategic with stuff. If all you do is try to take in the information, but you're not in a frame of mind to absorb it. Everybody's different. Like I do watch TV. I like sports a lot. Both my kids play sports, and so I watch a lot of sports with them. But if I'm in the mindset, like driving in the car, and I don't have the energy level to absorb information, I don't want to listen to something because I'm just going to listen to it and it's going to go in and ear, one out the other, and I'm not going to get anything out of it. So I pace myself, and I'm probably 10 books a year, give or take, I listen to. And sometimes I go back and re-listen to the same book because there's so many things you pick up that second time that you didn't get the first time. So I like listening to them multiple times.
Yeah.
And it was Matthew Kelly on that Dream Manager.
Well, I'm doing the whole Mike
Moira,
McLeod
what
series.
book are you into right now?
Because he's written, I've got him in my office. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The whole series,
6 different
all of them.
books. So Profit First is just his starter book. And what's fascinating about him is that he failed miserably in his first business, and that's where all of this came from. And his total reason for living is to rescue entrepreneurs from poverty. And because there's so many, even especially in our industry, you know, they get into this, they make lots of money, but they have nothing to show for it. So I feel very strongly about that and helping. I used to be a business management consultant and helped people build businesses before I got into this. So that really struck a chord with me. But I do a combination of both reading and Audible. It just depends on what mood I'm in. And even though I am a baby boomer, I have kept up with technology. Not all of us have stayed stuck back there in, you know, the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
Good job.
All right. So are you on Clockwork now, or
Right
is that
now
one
I'm
already,
on,
you finished that one, or
well, I
what one
did
are you on
All
right now?
In, which is his book on stuffing. And right now I'm Get Different, which is about marketing. So, you know,
Okay.
because you're constantly doing this thing where you're stuffing and then you're trying to
Okay.
bring in more cars, right? So it's that. And so now I'm on let's
Yep.
bring in more
Yep.
cars. And yeah, so it's all about and what is, I guess you would say protege, mentees is Jesse Cole from the Savannah Bananas. You guys know that guy? Savannah Bananas is the
No.
baseball, and that's out of Savannah. And the guy who did that, his name is Jesse Cole, and
Oh,
he
yes.
is
He does
one
reference
of
that.
Mike's
He referenced that in the book. Yes. Okay.
mentees. So he wears a yellow tuxedo, and he
Yes.
made
Okay.
baseball games really fun. No, yeah, minor league, yeah.
Yeah. It was a minor league team, if I remember
Yes.
correctly.
They dance
Yeah,
and
they
they
dance and
do
do
all
all
kinds of
sorts
little
of
skits,
fun stuff.
Right.
and there's all kinds of games. It's a lot of audience participation. So Jesse really turned it into a totally different animal. But his marketing shtick, if he doesn't mind me saying that, is he wears a. And so I'm trying to be that different, and
Okay.
I'm learning that from Mike from his book, Get Different.
That's interesting. I want to dial back to the prior book, though, about staffing. After reading that book, did you make any fine-tuned
Absolutely, yeah.
adjustments
It
to
made me
managing
think
the shop
more
culture?
about, like I said, being vulnerable
Which ones?
and allowing people into my life too. You know, it's also about sharing what you go through. I have a tendency to, you know, have the thick shell, everything's fine, got it. But it's okay to talk all in a more friendly manner and share the hardships that it is being a single female shop owner. It's tough. It's hard. It's a hard business, as you guys know. And it helped me to get closer to them and to let down some of my guard by reading some of the things that Mike recommended.
Interesting.
Can I chime in on the vulnerability
Please.
side? So I think that is one of the keys to culture. And Kendall, you mentioned how the people trust each other, and you guys do the lunches where they're grateful, what you're grateful for. It starts with us being vulnerable, because one of the things that I noticed as I started to develop and go through listening to different material and, okay, I'm being a better leader. The leadership happened outside of my home and outside of my business first, because that's where you don't know the people as well, right? The people that we're closest to, we tend to shy away from showing them the things that we're developing because it's uncomfortable. So I think getting that ability to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes along the way, but here's what I'm working on. And this is how we can all learn. And being vulnerable and telling experiences that are sometimes hard to talk about. And I think getting to that point with your staff, if you want them to open up and build
That's
that
right.
culture and you're afraid to do it, it's not going to happen. So I think that leadership, and I was doing one-on-ones with my staff, and I wasn't doing any of that with my house, right? With my kids and my wife. So we did a Sunday night one, this was a couple of years ago, and we talked about what are your goals, right? And we really got a lot in it. I thought it would be 10 or 15 minutes. I ended up being like an hour and a half discussion where we all talked about what we're doing and how do we support you. And if I don't know my kids' goals or my wife's goals, where am I at? So I think it's important not to just use this development that we have in any way. This is a life development, not a culture at the shop. This is a person. This is a character thing that you're developing yourself to be a leader in every aspect of life, I think.
That's interesting. I'm playing through in my own mind what that conversation would sound like at the dinner table. I'm pretty sure my 9-year-old would just say that he's going to last longer than Tom Brady did in the NFL, but he's not currently actively training. But then again, he's only 9, so who knows? All right. So Is there a written document somewhere in any of your offices? Okay, I'm going to craft shop culture, and here's what my shop culture is going to look like, and here are the steps that I'm going to take getting there. I guess what I'm saying is, for someone who's listening in who wants to reinvent their shop culture, what's the first step? What were the first steps that you took?
I don't have a written manual. I don't know that I could put in writing what I've done, but I think it's going to be different for every person. I think it starts with developing yourself. And when I stopped teaching in 2007, I was depressed, right? Like I stopped doing something that I went to school for 8 years, I thought was my career, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I coached with different coaches. I did a lot of personal development, and I've realized that I don't think that I was really happy. And I started to work on, how do I become happy? How do I enjoy life? And if we don't enjoy life, it's hard to be infectious and get your team and the energy level and stuff. So I think it starts with the personal development and enjoying life, really enjoying it, not just saying you do, but like, how do you get to the point where we all have a lot of stress in our life, potentially. Stress is from the eye of the beholder. I could have the same situation that Moira has, and she could be stressed to the max. And I'm like, yeah, I already handled what I need to handle to fix it. So I'm at terms with it, and I'm going to move on. So I think that outlook of ourselves is where it starts. And then as we develop ourselves, we become better leaders, because now our job is to teach our staff what we're learning, how to be better people, how to be better team members, how to grow themselves. And that grows the culture in itself, because everybody's learning personally how to become a better person.
Okay. So
and Kendall, you mentioned that a lot with what you do in the community and how you're helping. I volunteer. I'm on the board of a couple charities, and I do a lot of charity work. And I think that's huge, right? That tells your staff what you're about.
And the community.
Okay. So Moira, how about you? Was there anything written down?
I do.
This
I
is what
found
we're
that I
going to
have
do.
to
These are the
write it
steps that I'm
rather
going to
than
take.
type it. There's something about writing it that makes it stick in my brain, and I have various notebooks on various subjects. And to stay on track, I have to go back through that. Like, I still have my notebook from my last group conference with Mike's group. And I go back through that so that I can stay on track and evolve and grow. And then it actually gets transferred to another notebook of goals and vision. So I'm a big writer as well. And I think everybody has to find their path that works for them. Some people would, they don't like to write. So maybe they need to type it. They need to speak it. They need to keep, a video of themselves talking to themselves. But I think you do have to have some kind of discipline to, whether it's writing, speaking, whatever, to keep you focused on what those goals are. It's so easy in our busy lives to put it aside and get wrapped up in the day to day. And so I have to do it first thing in the morning. I get up early enough already. I get up at 5 a.m. But part of that 5 a.m. early rising is being able to write out how my activities today are going to achieve my goals. So yeah, I do write document that I could hand to people, but I think that's a really good idea. I'm going to have to figure out how to do that.
Step-by-step process. But step one,
It
even with
did,
you, it
yeah.
sounds like started with that
started,
personal
like I said,
development
I started
venture,
with
right? That
various
personal development
whatever you
journey.
want to call them. My sons make 20 and 24, so I'm a constant source of amusement for my children. But they call them my business gurus. So, like, Tony Robbins is a business guru. Floats is a business guru. So it started with a lot of that. And again, just like Matt was saying, that learning and evolving and growing your own brain first so that you can spread it to other people.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. I'm curious to what happens with the accountability of the vision board after 6 months
that's a
and
good
no
question.
progress has been made for that particular employee. Kendall, can you help me out with that?
I fire them. I'm kidding. So I nurture them, and I'm not going to be stagnant with those. Like, I want them to be the best versions of themselves. And those vision boards create opportunities for them to be best versions of themselves, whether it's a father, husband, leader, whether they're losing on their vision board, if they want to lose 30 pounds. I'm not going to let them slip on that. And I am like, we haven't been around each other, but I am a very intense person, and they know that, and they know I want the best for them. So I'll continue to help them. And if it's meal prep, I'm going to help them. If it's self-development, I'm going to help them. If it's saving for a home, I'm going to help them. Matt indicated the insurance, all of that stuff. I'm not going to let them have the same things on their vision boards every year. We reset in December. We create the vision boards for 2026, and we nurture, and I guide their development through that vision board and what's on their vision boards throughout the year.
And do you have some sort of template document that you start with, or is it just a conversation?
No, conversation.
Are those short term, like 1 year within a year goals, or do you have? Okay.
No, they're always a year. It's always, and then we reset them. So we have an end of year celebration dinner that we go over them initially. December 20th is when our end of year celebration is set, and we have it at the golf course. And so we go through the vision board, and then for the first 30 minutes, and then we check off what needs to be checked off, and ask some questions as to why we haven't made progress, or they haven't made progress on some of them. But again, it's an annual deal for us.
Now you're talking to them about it throughout the year.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
it's not going to be like a surprise. Oh, 11 months and you've lost 1 pound. That's kind of lame.
Yeah. If they're 90% there and they haven't gotten through that 10% in the last 2 months, then I'm going to have some questions for them. But most of the time they're attainable throughout the year. They're manageable and they're measurable. And I help them measure those throughout the year.
Right, so you are coaching on that process, because they could actually say, I want to lose 70 pounds. In 1 year, that might be a little tough, right?
Yeah.
So
throughout the year, I'm coaching them for sure.
That's interesting.
How many goals do they have on their goal boards?
Between 3 and 5 a year. Yeah. Between 3 and 5 is typical for us. Some of them had 7, some of them had 2, but it's been typically, I've seen 3 to 5. And I think I've got I even posted some pictures that I didn't get close enough to what they're writing because I didn't want to post those, but we do a good job of social media, making sure that people know what our culture is. And I think that's helped develop the bullpen that we have.
As the team aspects of things go, right? Or maybe you're paying your team differently, and as opposed to flat rate versus whatever the other programs that are out there are. I guess what I'm asking is, if this person's behind on a particular job, Kendall already said if it's time for him to go home, he goes home, and the car just waits the next day, right? What else is going on? Is there a team-like relationship where someone else will come in and help finish that job because we're trying to get more cars out on a particular time frame? Or so we talked about development. Now I'm talking about that collaboration. Matt, you even touched on the trying to overcome when you have conflict with each other. What about just the other side of that? When it's just, is there a lot of team helping each other?
Yeah, we redid our comp plan this year actually because of that topic. We were doing hourly with a bonus individually for labor hours turned, and we turned that to labor dollars produced for the entire team. And I think that goes more with our culture. So they hit certain tiers, they get bonuses, everybody gets the same bonus based on hitting a labor dollar threshold. So I think that we will have Friday afternoon, it's, hey, we got this car can ship and we can hit bonus. We might have 2-3 guys on. If we got something going that we can have multiple people on, that might happen to be able to complete that and get that car done for that customer as well as hit the bonus tier. So it has helped a lot in the camaraderie for them, because it's not, oh, well, I got this job and you got that job. That's not fair. It doesn't matter who gets what job. It's what tech is best suited for the job to be able to get the most productivity.
I like that, Matt. Tell me more about how do you deal with if you have one tech that's not quite the rock star that the other techs are. How do you manage that?
First off, hourly, they're going to be paid less, right? So you still have your tiered pay levels. So they're not going to make the same amount. So the bonus, we did it the same. And actually when we voted on it, I showed them the options of the plans. We had 2 or 3 different ones that we looked at. And
I'm sorry, your comp plan was decided on by the employees.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had
Go ahead. Keep
a
going.
team labor dollar option. We had 2 or 3 other ones, but then we also talked about that. So if somebody's producing 50% of what somebody else produces, should they get the same bonus? How do we want to handle that? They voted to have the same split. And so I think it's better that way because they coach and help each other to, like, if somebody's slacking, they're not on them in a negative way, but they're helping to push them in a positive direction. And sometimes they're on a vehicle they're training on. They've never pulled an engine and replaced an engine. That job's going to take them twice as long as what it takes a guy that's done it 25 times. But that's part of the learning curve too. They know in the long run, that's going to help the team because now more people can do that job. So we actually just let them pretty much choose it.
I'm still back to the idea that you had a group meeting. Hey guys, how would you like to be paid?
It's not their pay, it's their bonus, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We presented a couple options and I tracked them in the background for about 6 weeks. So I knew which plans worked and what was going to work well. And then gave them options that I already knew would work, right? I'd already designed the bonus tiers to say,
Right.
okay, these work financially for the company.
Understood.
Which one? Yeah. So we already knew it wasn't going to bankrupt the company because I'm giving away the farm and in 3 months we're out of business.
Yeah. Yeah. So Moira, what about you? Is it a team relationship
so what I'm
that's in your
doing
culture?
now,
What's
similar to
going
what
on there?
Matt was doing before. So they have a base pay, plus then they get money off of hours turned when they hit over 37 hours. But I also do have a group pot that when we exceed a number, that money goes into that pot. And then as long as they don't but they don't have major comebacks or we have some major equipment failure that can get subtracted out of it. So they're all incentivized to keep the equipment going and maintained. That money can then be split up at the end of the year. But the last 2 years, they chose to take that money and they wanted to go to SEMA in Vegas. So I paid for the trips for the last 2 years and they got an additional, pretty much a week off. So that be unifying and create a lot of teamwork because they all wanted to go to SEMA. Now that would not work if some of them didn't want to go, but fortunately my guys all agreed on the same goal and they hit it 2 years in a row.
Interesting. Kendall, what kind of team relationship do you guys have outside the vision boards? Like as far as getting the work done during the day, are they jumping across the bays to help each other with each assigned job? What's going on?
Well, if there's help needed, like putting in engines or help planting engines, things like that, but they're all self-sufficient. But again, they're always willing to help the younger guys. The older, my master techs will help the younger guys. It's a family oriented culture for sure. So they have no problems helping each other at all.
Interesting. Okay. So what other what other areas have we not covered that we want to talk about with shop culture? We've been chatting for a little over an hour now, and I want to make sure that everyone that's listening in, they came here saying, okay, I'm trying to define shop culture. We started with, let's develop you as the person and then carry that and coach that to your team members. You all knew that we were going to be talking about shop culture. Was there a particular topic or thing that you wanted to bring up when you thought about this topic?
I got something that we did not talk about so far. This was pretty early on in our real growth of shop culture. We came up with fundamentals for the shop. So like we had a list. I'm part of Automotive Training Institute. They had about 20 of them. So we took those and we voted on which ones we liked. And we came up with 8 and then reworded those. So do the right thing. Every aspect of your job. If you see a customer, open the door for them, right? If you see garbage on the ground, pick it up, right? Those kind of things. And so it started with those fundamentals. So each team meeting, we pick a different fundamental. And actually what I started doing about 6 months ago is I have one of our team members. So I assigned them to pick the fundamental, and then they have to pick a team member that they saw exhibiting that fundamental. So do the right thing is something that's the fundamental they pick for the team meeting. They'll read the definition of that, and then they'll say, okay, so I saw John do this. He helped the customer, went out to, like, one of our guys stopped by somebody that was on the side of the road last month. That was and helped them, got them jump started, got them to the shop. They were just stuck. That wasn't something they needed to do. They just went out of their way, helped that person, and got them over to the shop. And so that was one of the feedback from the other team member of doing the right thing. And that's really changed. That was a good start, because then is what you're doing really living up to the fundamentals. There's an accountability aspect to those fundamentals. We got them laminated on our office window so everybody could see them.
Even customers?
It's internal. I don't have them in the lobby. I don't think it'd be a bad thing to have them in the lobby, but we don't.
With the enhancement of the shop culture over, let's say, the last 3 to 5 years, have you seen a difference in your customers' experience with your shop?
I think our reviews have gone up steadily. We're at a 4.8 now on Google, and it's a lot of it is the courteousness, the appreciative. I think the digital inspection, Moira mentioned it earlier, that goes a long way. We spend a lot of time on those inspections. We're really thorough. And I think people get frustrated when, they're back in with an issue that was probably there when they brought it in last time and you didn't see it. So I think getting all those kind of things working together. And when your team is happy and they enjoy being there, the customer has a better experience. So to me is the biggest aspect of the culture that the rubs off on the customer. They know walking in, like one of our front end service advisors, she loves decorating, right? So we have a decorating budget for the lobby, and like out on the front pillars, the yellow pillars, so they don't hit our building, we've got candy canes that she put on there, and it feels like home, right? And that's critical, I think, to walking into an environment and just feeling welcome. And it's not just the smile on the person's face. It's, do you smell rubber or do you see a Christmas tree in the lobby?
What about you, Moira? Has the change in in shop culture improved customer relationships and experiences?
Yes. And granted, it's probably really differently than a lot of people. So, for example, one of my current service advisors is pregnant, like literally due any day. And the customers really embrace her and, excited about her baby. And I've set it up so that she's going to be able to bring the baby to work, and we're all going to take turns with the baby. And it just, again, brings such a warmth to people that it's business. A lot of times they expect to walk in and they have a big chip on their shoulder. They're expecting to get ripped off because they've had such bad experiences at other independent shops and dealerships. And to walk in and have this very cute pregnant girl there who talks about her baby, and it just sets everybody up. We're also big on, we have dogs. We're careful with the dogs. Of course, people don't like dogs. We don't have them out. But dogs have really won people over, customers over. They know now that this is a very different type of experience in auto repair, because most places you go to, you're not going to have a dog. You're not going to have a pregnant woman who eventually is going to have the baby here. So we extended that vulnerability and our lives to our customers. And then, of course, we asked them about, one of them, and, your husband was sick. Is everything okay? And how was that vacation? So it's really developing the relationship, not just saying it like we used to do years ago, relationship with your customer, but now it's true. And customers then they're bought in because it's a community. Now they know you.
Right. And so we're going to be posting those pictures of the child on Facebook, I imagine, on your business page. And I'm trying to recall if I've seen pictures of the dogs on your Facebook page, but I'd have to double check.
I think
we went with a couple shop dogs. Like, we started allowing 2 of our staff to bring their dogs a couple of years ago. And it just makes everybody loves coming in and seeing the dogs. Like, people will come in just to give them treats.
Yes. I always keep treats. It's a little bag of treats for all my customers. We're also, since we're at the airport, we're with the airport police, and there's some canine officers. So it's really fun that they'll
question
hang
was
out.
the size of these dogs.
Yeah, so the canine dogs will hang out because they know they can get treats here. And it just makes it a much more fun, warm experience. There's children and puppies involved.
Interesting. Kendall, what about you? Do you have a list of values published for everyone to see and buy into? And if so, what does that look like during the interview process when you're trying to hire somebody? You've got this very defined job culture. It's been around for 10 years or so, and you probably have these values posted somewhere. Yeah. How does that play into the interview process? And talk to me about the values you've got posted.
So we have our core values right in front of when you walk into the building. Our core values are on the wall there. And I hire based on those core values. Everybody understands that. And I also separate by the core values. Everybody understands that too. But our company culture, from what Moira said in terms, and Matt said in terms of what the customers feel, they feel the same. They feel the same thing. We have a mural on the side of our building in downtown Lincoln here, somewhat equivalent to the National Wings that people absolutely love. They bring, I've been the photographer for people outside. They don't even know I own the place, and I'm taking pictures of them. So again, core values are big for me. Community involvement is also big for me.
What's the next step in this process of developing the shop culture? Because it's not okay, I've arrived, right? You haven't, nobody, we've not arrived. We're still building it. There's still going to be some new ideas that we're going to be implementing. What do you think's next? What's on the radar from something you're reading now?
I'm just going to continue to nurture and grow our staff and nurture and grow our bullpen and expand on the great culture that we have, whether it's company outings, retreat. But family is always going to be centered. Flexibility, family, and compensation is going to be the reason that our culture will is great and will continue to be great. And respectfully, we're going to outrun everybody in this city because of it.
Nice.
For me, it's the gatherings. We did some before, and I think either people would say they would go, and then they didn't show up because they didn't really want to do it, or we were doing things that not everybody wanted to do. So I tell them the one thing we're going to do as a team is our holiday get together, right? Other than that, what I did is we created things that we all chimed in on and added to the list of things that we might want to do. And then I brought them in and just had them vote on each one through 10, 10 being you're there, you love it, and 1 being you got no interest in it. So that way it's not just yes or no. So that way what we'll do is we're going to rotate through different events. And if I know we haven't done one that so-and-so likes to do, then we'll do one out of his or her list that's a higher number. So we get everybody involved and they get to do different experiences. For instance, maybe bowling. Some people want to bowl, some people don't, right? Some people, fast go-karts is on the list. Some people might want to do that, some people don't. So if we rotate through things that get each person involved, and I told them, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't want to go, but don't commit to it and then not show up. That's not fair to the team. And we're spending money on you that you didn't want to do it in the first place. Again, that's building that trust factor. So that's one of our goals for 25 is to do event a quarter and rotate through that.
You just answered my next question, which was about frequency. And Kendall, you mentioned retreats. What's the frequency on those retreats that you're talking about with the team?
We haven't done them yet. And that's maybe the next step in the culture. Maybe it's a retreat. Maybe it's a retreat to Omaha for the weekend or for a night, because I don't want to take away their family time. But that's something that I've thought about.
Interesting. What about you, Moira? What's next?
What I want to do next is mentor young people, young men and women in high schools and tech schools, and show them that this is a different industry, and show them that there can be warmth and growth and income potential. And it's not the mechanic of years ago. That I want to dispel those preconceived notions that people have about technicians as a whole, and, the general population too, that this is not, the green guy in the back. This requires a lot of thought now. You have to know a lot about computers. You have to be able to use very sophisticated tools and techniques. And it's not just brute force, to wrench and beating the hell out of it anymore. That this has really evolved into a lucrative career where you can still have a life. So the next thing I want to evolve to is share that concept with younger people, track them not just to me, but to the industry as a whole.
Interesting. What you said just kind of a memory I had from about 20 or so years ago. I went into this one shop and he had 20 different sized hammers hanging on the wall. Okay. So my Jeep is going to get the beat down potentially. Who knows? But anyway, that's interesting. How are you planning on reaching out to those tech schools? Do you have a lot in your area?
There are two. There's a Savannah Tech and there's a Geechee Tech, which is in South Carolina because we're close to it. And I have been on the boards before. So I've already started talking to the directors of the programs about let's do this. And then there is one high school in the Savannah area that has tech training, auto tech training. So I want to I've talked about with them starting a program that we can, and not just me, I want to bring in other shop owners, other people in the industry to talk to these people on a regular basis about their career opportunities.
Nice. Nice. All right. So the next question I want to chat with, and I think we're getting close to wrapping up, but some of my listeners, they are still turning the wrenches. The three of you are managing your shop, right? You're working on the business, not necessarily in the business still. And a lot of the listeners that I come across are kind of in that stage where they're changing that up, right? They're trying to grow, get pulled into the day to day. That group of listeners, what would you say to them if they're trying to figure out how to manage shop culture while being one of the people underneath the cars? Thoughts?
I don't think that really changes shop culture too much. I think it changes a lot of other things, like being able to have time to manage numbers and get on the business. But the culture, if you're in the day to day, I think you have even more impact on it because you're interacting within the workflow on a day to day basis. Right now, I'm not in the workflow. I have to specially interject into the workflow in order to be part of that. I think the shop culture is probably easier when you're in the day to day. And I used to service advise. I was never a tech, but service advising, you're interacting with the techs all the time. Then to train another service advisor to do it the way you want it done and have the type of attitude you want, that everybody's got a different person. So it's easier when you're training yourself to do it than it is to train somebody else to do what you want.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
It was forced on me. I did turn wrenches for a number of years, and then I had a number of illnesses and injuries and surgeries. So I had to change how I felt about doing that kind of work if I wanted to stay with an operating business. And I had to relinquish that role, and that was hard. You have to find the A tech, and agrees with you in a lot of things. And then I went to the counter and did the service advisor thing. And it just got to be old and tired, and I'm not good at just sitting in one place. So realizing my own limitations, both physically and emotionally, that, I can't turn wrenches like I used to. And emotionally, I don't want to sit at the counter and be still all day, but I still wanted to have this business. So it was, an awakening. I have to change these things again about myself and set parameters in place and be very communicative with my staff about what the expectations are so that they can be successful, so that I could have the next shop or wherever else I want to take. So yeah, life kind of just taught me a lesson.
Yeah. And that's something that I think, Kendall, you're going to have an easier time with potentially than some others because of the proximity. I don't think the other location is too far away from your current location. You mentioned south.
8.1 miles. Yeah.
Okay. So I wondered, someone who's got 2 or 3 or 5 locations, how they might manage a consistent shop culture across the board. I mean, things that we talked about can absolutely be applied, but if you have the wrong staff or the wrong manager at that particular location, you're going to kind of go off rails really fast.
Yeah, you got to find the right managers, district manager if you're in that space. And a lot of them, the guys that I know in that space do exactly that.
Yeah. So I wonder forecast for me for a little bit. What do you expect the challenges are going to be with having a second location? Matt, you can sit this one out because you're not looking to build a second location, but Kendall and Moira, what challenges do you see with mimicking the good shop culture that you have at that second location and then allowing them both to evolve, but also keeping it consistent so that wonder about that. What are your thoughts?
I'll go. So okay. I hired that second service manager here with the intent of training him for a year and leaving him at this downtown location and taking Kurt with me down south. So I'm taking three of the five techs south. I've got 3 team members, family members that are going to stay here, and I'm going to implement another service manager with 2 techs coming from another shop in the downtown area that I have agreements written and signed on. So that's how I'm doing it. I'm duplicating what I'm doing here. I'm overstaffed so I can implement the right culture in these people. And then I take half of them down to the south location and leave the other 3 here to sustain the culture. So that's how I'm going.
So you're not going to replace those 2 or 3 people that are leaving at this location. You're
Yeah, yeah.
overstaffed currently intentionally.
Yep.
Got it.
So yeah, I have a confession to make. I had 3 shops at one point a number of years ago, and had 20 staff, 20 people on staff. But the mistake I made back then was I was trying to do too much of the work myself. And now doing it again, I would definitely hire, especially when you get to 3 shops. I'm not sure about 2, but 3, I would have some kind of general manager, district manager, whatever you want to call it, who could deal with a lot of the details so that I don't end up killing myself again, almost killing myself. But I do agree also, like what Kendall was saying, I'm going to take part of the staff that's already here and they've already agreed to go to the next
Okay.
location so that you've already got the culture in that
Nice.
location. And now you're just adding new people to it, but you're not starting with a whole new staff trying to reinvent the wheel. So I think it's good to replicate yourself. But yeah, I learned, and obviously I learned better from hard knock.
Sometimes we all do. That's fine.
That trying to take it all on yourself just gets to be too much. So that is the thing I would definitely do differently, is have somebody else involved as some kind of manager moving forward.
All right. Are there any other topics that we should cover that we haven't covered? Wrapping up here. Did I miss anything? Did we not talk about something? Okay.
I
I'm
think
seeing
they're pretty comprehensive.
seeing the nose. All right. Well, good. Well, I had a great time. I really enjoyed talking with all of you about this. I think I actually I'm going to be re-listening to this podcast because I got some things that I'm going to take notes on afterwards. I didn't do any writing, like for the names of the books and whatnot. I mentioned the Facebook group that we're slowly building, that we're trying to do. And I'd love to, on a regular basis, hear from you guys as far as what books you're currently reading. I'd like to add it to my library as well. And, we also might be able to share some things that come up, like whether or not we implemented that gratitude lunch. And here's what happened when we did it, right? So I'd love to continue that type of a conversation in that private Facebook group. I'll try to get you guys the invitation. It is a private group, but it's open to, like, if you're a shop owner, request to be added, and then somebody will add you to the group and you'll be able to jump in and join this future conversation. But again, thank you each for joining us here on this GarageGrit podcast. And as I already mentioned, next month, we're going to be talking about the whole loaner car versus models versus, and I find, like I said, I already mentioned the insurance side of that kind of jumped out at me. The guest who's going to be joining us, he actually went the complete far direction. He doesn't do loaner cars. He doesn't do shuttles. He does rentals. He actually he actually went all in, right? The exact opposite. And it'll be interesting to hear from him as far as what his experience was with that. So, all right, well, look forward to continuing the conversation on the Facebook group. Again, thank you so much for your time. It's been about 90 minutes. So again, thank you.
Thanks for having us,
Great day.
Brad.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have
Brad.
a great weekend.